All right, so good afternoon, everyone. Hold on, let me turn on my camera. All right, so good afternoon, students and teachers and other persons who are joining us today. Um, Welcome you guys to another session of an afternoon to scientists. We are happy to have you all with us today. Today we have a fun and engaging and educational session lined up for you all, and I do hope that you will leave today's session with new knowledge and understanding of how to care for your environment resources. So before I introduce our presenter for today, I just want to welcome those who are viewing us live on our YouTube page. Welcome, guys, and I do hope that you guys will be intrigued today as well. All right, so what I would like for persons to do is to comment, write your comment in the section where you're joining us from today, your the name of your institution, and also an email address so that we can inform you guys of any other activities that we're having here at Natural History. All right, so let's get into the program. So introducing our speakers or presenters for today rather is Miss Kareem Parks, your host, of course, and I'm the Assistant Education Outreach Officer here at Natural History Museum of Jamaica. All right, so today we have Miss Natalie Hutchins and Mr. Romero Griffiths. And just a little bit of information for both before we start. Miss Natalie Hutchins, having acquired a Bachelor's of Science degree in Geology from the University of West Indies, Natalie Hutchins ventured into the water resources. Now an assistant hydrogeologist at the Water Resource Authority of Jamaica, her 5 years of experience gave her the platform to be recognized by virtue of her works. Ms. Hutchins received an Award of Excellence in recognition for her research done on interbasin transfer of water in Jamaica. Ms. Hutchins is motivated by her love for the environment and her desire to contribute towards solutions for Jamaica's water-related challenges, especially in the light of the impacts of climate change. And for Mr. Romero Griffiths is an assistant hydrologist with 5 years of experience working at the Water Resource Authority. He specializes in data collection, data analytics, water collection, and management. He graduated from the University of West Indies with a Bachelor of Science degree, majoring in geology. Romero is an extrovert with a powerful and infectious character who garners motivation from his wife and the son. Romero loves to use data to solve problems while appeasing the needs for those around him. So now I just want to welcome our presenter for today from the Water Resource Authority. Welcome, guys, and you may begin your presentation.
Good afternoon, boys and girls and everyone. I'm Natalie Hutchins.
And I'm Romero Griffiths.
We're from the Water Resources Authority, and today we'll be presenting on understanding the value of water. Water is an element of the earth which makes up about 75% of our planet, but only 3% of this is fresh water, while the rest of the water on the earth is ocean or salt water or seawater, that is. It is the most precious and valuable natural resource on the planet. No, not diamonds or gold or even oil, but water.
Water is so important and vital to all life that access to clean, safe, and reliable water is considered a human right. That's right. Just like food, clothes, shelter, access to water is a basic need. Fun fact. Did you know that Earth is the only known planet in our solar system which have consistent stable bodies of liquid water on its surface, we live on a unique planet.
Where does water come from? Let's learn about where water comes from by watching this video together.
When you're thirsty, nothing is better than a nice cool drink of water. Oh, and it looks like my plant could use a drink of water too. Did you ever stop to think about where our water comes from? Sure, when you get a drink of water, it might come from a faucet or a bottle. And I get my flower here water from a watering can. But you know what? The water that comes out of the faucet and the watering can may once have been part of a cloud, or a snowflake, or even the ocean. Awesome, right? And it's because of something called the water cycle. Now, a cycle is a set of steps that repeat over and over. When you get to the last step in a cycle, you go back to the beginning and go through the steps again. For example, every year there are 4 seasons: spring, summer, fall, and winter. And when winter's over, it's time for spring again. We go back to the beginning of the cycle. In the water cycle, all of the water on Earth goes through a set of steps that repeat over and over. Let's start with a step in our water cycle where we open up our umbrellas. That's right, Squeaks, rain. Rain is water that falls from the sky. Some rainwater soaks into the ground, but a lot of it flows into little creeks and streams and then ends up in rivers, lakes, and eventually the ocean. And then something really interesting happens. Some of this water changes. You might have noticed that after it rains, some water is left on the ground, like in puddles that you can jump in. But what happens to all that water? It seems like it's there one day, but then after a little while, it's gone. Well, that water didn't just disappear. When the sun comes out and the ground gets warm, water can change into a different form. We call this form water vapor. And water vapor is a gas. The air we breathe, it's a bunch of different gases mixed together. And like the gases that make up air, you can't see water vapor gas. When the sun shines on rivers, lakes, and oceans, some of the water changes into water vapor. And then the water vapor goes up high, very high, up into the sky. And it gets pretty cold up there. So when the water vapor gets high enough, it starts to get cool. And as water vapor cools down, it changes back into little drops of liquid water. You can actually see water vapor change into water drops right at home. All you need is a mirror or window and your mouth. Put your face close to the mirror or window. Open your mouth nice and wide and breathe out. What happens? The glass gets foggy. That's because there's water vapor in your warm breath. And when the water vapor in your breath touches the cool glass, it changes into teeny tiny droplets. A lot of the droplets together make the glass look cloudy. And up in the sky, a lot of water droplets together make clouds. When there's a lot of water in a cloud, the cloud starts to get darker. White fluffy clouds start to turn gray. And as the clouds get grayer, the water in them gets heavier. When the water gets too heavy, it falls right back out of the clouds as rain. And rain is where we started in the cycle. We made it all the way back to the beginning. Now the water cycle can start all over again. All the water on our great big Earth goes through this same cycle over and over. It falls to the ground as rain or snow, and soon the water ends up in a river, lake, or ocean. From there, it heats up and turns into vapor. And when the vapor rises into the sky and cools off, it comes right back down. So the water that you drink and the water that's in my watering can right now might once have been part of a raindrop that fell into the ocean on the other side of the world. Think about that the next time you take a drink. Thanks for joining us on SciShow Kids. Do you have a
In Jamaica, water resources is categorized as either ground or surface water. Water is stored underground in porous rock layers called aquifers. We get groundwater from wells or springs. Here we can see examples of how we access groundwater. Yes, boys and girls, in some parts of Jamaica, we are actually standing on some of the aquifers. On this slide, we are looking at 2 drill wells and a hand-dug well. Now, the hand-dug well is this one, the concrete structure. These are drill wells. This one has a pump on it that pumps the water that you use.
Other examples of groundwater sources are springs and blue holes. Some springs are water that comes directly out of the earth from underground, but blue holes are usually a sink or an opening in rocks where water comes from underground and up wells or pools. They usually look blue in color, and that's how they get their name. Here we have examples of popular blue holes and springs in Jamaica, which are tourist attractions.
Can you identify any of these? Next, we have surface water sources. These are water sources that are on the land, such as rivers, lakes, and ponds. Here we have the Duns River, Falls, and even the Mona Reservoir. These are ponds that are also surface water sources.
Groundwater and surface water sources depend on rain. There are places in Jamaica that don't have access to groundwater or surface water sources, so they depend on rainwater. When we catch rain for use, it is called rainwater harvesting. Here we can see where water is running off the roof into drums or tanks, as well as onto a large concrete platform called a barbecue. It is a very good practice to catch and store rainwater. Stored water can be used in times of water shortages or drought.
Jamaicans use water from these sources for domestic, industrial, agricultural, or for recreational needs. As we explained earlier, we have the drinking, we have those that are used in the manufacturing industry, we have the farmers, and we have water, which is used in tourism.
Let's watch a video about water's importance and its uses.
Water covers more than 3/4 of the Earth's surface. It fills lakes, seas, and rivers. 97% of all of Earth's water is seawater. 1% is fresh water, and 2% is in the form of ice. Water is essential for all living things. For example, plants cannot produce their food without water. Their leaves use carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight to produce food. This food is transported from their leaves to other parts using water. The roots of a plant absorb salt and minerals by taking in water from the soil. But not only do plants need water, all living things need water to survive. Water makes up 70% of your body, and your blood consists of 90% water. Many of the chemical reactions in your body take place in water. Food that has been digested dissolves in water, and then water carries the nutrients in it to all the different parts of your body. Water also removes waste products from your body and cleanses it from within. Your body temperature is kept normal by sweating in hot weather to cool down. This would not be possible if there was no water in your body. Water is also important because it is the home of marine life. Oxygen and other substances that dissolve in water are important for the survival of all aquatic life, including plants and fish. Fish absorb the oxygen in water through their gills. Time for an exercise. Can you think of 3 other ways that water is important? Hear what Spiky and Bubbles came up with: cooking, hygiene, keeping houses and communities clean. How did you do? Today we learned.
Fun fact. Did you know water is so important to life that you can survive up to 1 month without food? But without water, you will die after just 1 week. Drinking water can save your life. Water is life.
Why is water important to life? As living beings, it is very important to drink clean water. It keeps us hydrated. It makes our brains, hearts, joints, skins, and other parts of our bodies work smoothly. Essentially, it keeps us alive. Another important use of water is for farming, which provides the food we eat and stay alive.
Fun fact again. Did you know that the basic water requirement for human needs ranges between 20 to 50 liters per person per day, depending on climatic conditions? So that means each person needs between 5 to 13 of the 5-gallon bottles of water to use in their daily life activities, such as cooking, bathing, drinking, washing, or so on. Climate change and water. The earth is heating up. We are getting hotter. This has resulted in extreme changes in rainfall patterns. We are experiencing less rain in some parts of the earth and more rain in other areas. But what happens when there's no rain for a long time, or what happens when there's too much rain? When there's no rain, it causes drought. And when there's too much rain, it causes flooding. This is climate change.
How climate change affects water. In 2018, Cape Town in South Africa announced a countdown to day zero. They have not received a lot of rain in over 3 years. Water sources started to dry up, and the government placed restrictions on how much water a person could use for the day. Cape Town's day zero is the day when all water sources will run out. Here, we can see people lining up to get their water for the day. Can you imagine if this would happen in Jamaica, the land of wood and water? No, I cannot.
Mexico City in Mexico, just like Kingston in Jamaica, was built on an aquifer. Do you remember what an aquifer is? Just like any other city around the world, as population increases, so does water demand. Unlike Kingston, which gets its water from surrounding parishes, Mexico City pulls all of its water from the underground aquifer the city was built on. As water level decreases in that aquifer, the weight of the city sinks with the aquifer. If this continues, then Mexico City could run out of water, or worse, collapse on itself.
So, how do humans contribute to making water unhealthy? The improper disposal of waste causes contamination of pollution of water sources and make it unhealthy. For example, using pit toilets and releasing untreated sewage into the environment. This is the reason why Kingston gets its water from other parishes. It sits atop a contaminated aquifer. When people throw garbage into rivers or gullies, they pollute our water sources and can cause flooding. Polluted water is unhealthy and should not be used at all. Boys and girls should not play in these waters. It will make them sick.
How can persons make water safe for drinking? Remember, access to safe and clean water is a basic need and a human right. So we need to keep our water sources protected. We can play our part in that by, not throwing garbage or pollutants into water sources. We can conserve water by not wasting it, and we should try to reuse water for things like watering plants or flushing toilets. Also, we can boil or treat water with bleach or chlorine before use.
The role of a water scientist. Our roles as water scientists include following the goals of the Water Resources Authority of Jamaica, which is to conserve, protect, allocate, and manage Jamaica's water resources. Since water is the most valuable natural resource on the planet, then being a water scientist is the most important job of all.
At the WRA, which is Water Resources Authority, we test water sources and monitor water levels for both groundwater and surface water. We also ensure that water is shared equally, and we do our best to safeguard it from running out. The role of a water scientist can also why you should become a water scientist. You can help to save planet Earth and become a water hero. You can help to solve issues of drought and water shortages. So come, boys and girls, help us to protect the most valuable resource on Earth. Come and join us and be a water hero. So let us recap and see if we remember what we went through earlier. Our bodies are made up of
What percentage of water?
what percentage of water are our bodies made up of? If we remember, our bodies are made up of 70% water. We can lose water by doing some activities. Can we name a few?
Some of these activities.
Somebody will have a raised hand.
Yes, go ahead, Jenny.
Jenny, cool.
Can do athletic activities.
Right.
Excellent. Any more, Jenny?
I think you can eat certain foods that don't have much water.
Okay.
Okay, that works as well. Anybody else have anything else to say?
No, all right. We can lose water by, as Jenny said, certain activities such as exercising. We can lose water by breathing.
Breathing out.
We can lose water by crying, or when we go to the bathroom.
That's it.
What are some important uses of water?
You can raise your hands or type in the chat.
Have somebody in the chat. To cook.
Awesome.
So we can use water to cook.
That's right.
We can use water to bathe, water plants, wash our hands.
Right. Those are correct. Thank you.
What are some sources of fresh water? We have somebody in the chat. Ponds. Excellent, Janine.
Correct.
Lakes. Good. Anybody else?
Springs.
Tiona said spring.
Springs,
Fiona.
yes.
Correct.
We have, Jenny said wells as well.
Awesome. And the rain.
Don't forget the input into this system, the rain. Without the rain, we wouldn't have any of these water. How long can a person survive without drinking water? Let's see if we remember. All right, we have somebody in the chat. 1 week.
Excellent,
Excellent.
Johnny.
And Tiona.
Awesome, Tiona.
So this brings us to the end of our presentation. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, we do.
That's Johnny.
That is Tiona. Tiona question was, does Jamaica have more groundwater versus surface water? Yes, we do.
More water is stored on the ground.
More water is stored underground than on the surface. We have in that light, we have more wells, like water being accessible through wells more than surface water sources.
That's right. Thanks for that question. Any other questions?
Any drastic change? Have the developers or any drastic change in our water resources due to climate change? What the best way to answer that now? Is it a drastic change?
Well, yes, due to, I would say yes, which is a general thing. Climate change affecting the patterns and intensity of rainfall. So in times where we should expect more rainfall, lately Jamaica has been experiencing either delayed rains or no rains at all.
And also, it has resulted in some rivers drying up.
Right, some rivers are drying up because we're not getting rain.
And also, there are more wells being utilized that know that the rivers are not as accessible as one time.
Right.
This way we said our water sources be protected. What measures are in place? Yes, that's why we're here. We protect the water sources. We ensure that we issue licenses to different people, different abstractors, we call them, the persons who pull water from the sources.
For example, the National Water Commission.
Yes, NWC cannot operate unless they get a license from us. Currently, we have over 700 licensed sources in Jamaica, including both wells, groundwater, and surface water sources. Here at the Water Resources Authority, we try to monitor all of them. We ensure that it is equitable so that water is available for everyone and get access to it.
Right.
We prioritize domestic water, that is water that you drink and use for sanitization purposes, over any other water use. Any more questions? Mrs. Clark, is there any question coming in from the other?
Yeah, we have another question.
Another question. What are the penalties for illegal access? All right, we work based on our act, and if you breach the conditions of the act, then there are the penalties. And the penalties are within the act. So what we try to do is we try to get everyone who we find as illegal abstractors, we try to get them regularized so that we can keep an account of what is happening, because we don't want people to just go and take water from the rivers or the wells and impacting our overall can I say water balance, water
Right,
total.
water balance.
So we try to monitor the entire island. Any more, Mrs. Clark? You're welcome, sweetie.
All right, thank you guys so much for that presentation. I did learn something and I enjoyed the presentation. And in the comment, Tiona is saying interesting. I enjoyed the presentation as well. So I do know that our participants for today's session, they did learn something new and they did enjoy the presentation. And based from the questions that you guys got, I can see that persons were, really engaged for today's session. All right, so I just want to thank our presenters for today, Miss Natalie Hutchins and Mr. Romero Griffiths, for just taking the time out to create such a beautiful presentation. Your PowerPoint was wonderful and it was interactive. Shows us, help us to see who was listening, who was, paying attention to the presentation. So it was well received for today. And I just want to again, thank you for taking the time out to be with us today out of your busy schedule. Also want to thank our participants in Zoom, on our Zoom platform. Thank you for your regular support, guys. We do appreciate it. And we do hope that you guys were well informed today and also learned something new about about water. Also on our YouTube platform, I want to thank those over there for participating with us. And they don't have any questions, right, Tiona? Okay, so I just want to thank them for always tuning in on our YouTube platform and joining in the session today. So we've come to the end of today's session, and I do hope that you guys will join us for our next session. And I don't see anybody place the email in the chat or where they're joining us from, so we can't do any shout out today. But thank you overall for participating in an Afternoon with the Scientist session for today. And I do hope that you guys will continue to have a beautiful day.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome.